Alright, Valentine's Day is just around the corner and I've got 20 of my favorite delicious chocolate fragrances. Chocolate and cacao is what we're covering today, and I love the word gourmand fragrances. Obviously you know about me if you are a follower of this channel, and I like them all year round, and also especially around this time of the year because I love to eat chocolate, and these are some of my favorites and some of the world's favorite chocolate gourmand, cacao gourmand fragrances. So if you want to find out what they are, then please stay tuned. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. That's right, today it's all about chocolate and cacao fragrances since Valentine's Day is just around the corner. I love these gourmand fragrances. You've got chocolate, you've got cacao, but I wanted to make sure these are all delicious. There were some chocolate fragrances or cacao fragrances that I decided to leave off because even though they had the note in it, I decided it wasn't delicious, so I left them off. Also, we're not going to cover white chocolate today because we're focusing on the dark chocolate or cacao. Anyway, if this is your first time tuning into my channel though, and you still haven't subscribed to my channel but you love watching fragrance reviews, finding out about new fragrances, discovering new brands, and of course participating in giveaways, please click that subscribe button below and also click the bell so that you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. Let's jump right into it now, and we're going to start off very first one with Gallagher Fragrances Wicked Good, this one right here. And this is such a great offering from this house, an indie niche house, and I feel like this Wicked Good and Rosé All Day are really solid releases from this house, and I especially love this one with Rosé All Day right behind it. And this is nothing but chocolate, tonka beans, and vanilla. It's absolutely delicious. It's the right amount of chocolate, the right amount of tonka beans with that sweet vanillic note thrown in. It's to die for, and it does remind me of a really like delicious kind of like chocolatey pralines or things like that, just to eat and feel good afterwards. Anyway, Wicked Good from Gallagher Fragrances is absolutely delicious. This next fragrance is from the house of AKRO, and this is dark, stands for dark chocolate. And AKRO fragrances are all focusing on addictions. They've covered coffee, they've covered tobacco, they've covered so many different addictions, and then this is the dark chocolate addiction. Now this one is a dark chocolate, but you have very nutty nuances, of course, because it has hazelnuts thrown in. There's hazelnuts, there's cacao, there's dark chocolate, cinnamon, and vanilla. It's delicious. There's similarities between these two, and then there's differences. It just depends on what kind of chocolate you like. The Gallagher Fragrances does not have that nuttiness, but this one definitely does. So check this one out. It's AKRO and it's dark. Really, really delicious. So next we're going to the house of NISHANE, and this is Passion Choco, this one right here. So this one is a very unique take on chocolate, and it's kind of a fragrance from this house that typically is not the style of fragrances that are found with this house, and it doesn't mean it's a bad thing or anything. It's just it's a gourmand, and I've come to love this one very slowly. Chocolate was really, really complicated for me in the past. In fact, there's one chocolate fragrance that I've left off. Most of you probably know is Montal's Chocolate Greedy. I just don't find that one to be very yummy to me. But this one is very, very yummy, and this one focuses on dark chocolate with lots of passion fruit. So it's a fruity take on the chocolate, and you've also got some coffee note thrown in there. There is some like interesting coffee-like accord happening with some sweet vanillic vanilla. There's some orchid thrown in, of orchid-like note or accord, and then there's musk and benzoin. It's quite delicious, but to me it tastes like a praline with a kind of like a fruity filling in it, if that makes sense. But just imagine going to like a chocolate shop here in California. We have C's Candies, and I love going there and picking up chocolates, a box of chocolates to eat, and this reminds me of some of the fruitier chocolates. Anyway, NISHANE Passion Choco, a great one for you to try. Next we're going to two different fragrances from the same house. First we're going to go with Strawberry Delight from PANAH London, and this one is strawberries, lots of strawberries, very, very fruity strawberries with dark chocolate. You've got some amaretto thrown in, some rose milk and vanilla, and going to that C's Candy shop as I was saying, and you just getting a box of chocolates, fruit filled and pralines and things like that. And this one is the one that has lots of strawberries in there. And to me, you could even say it's like strawberries dipped in chocolate. That's what it reminds me of, but more boozy because it has lots of boozy qualities. So that is Strawberry Delight. The next one is Pink Champagne Truffle, the first one that I reviewed from this house on the channel. And these two are completely different, obviously, because they have different fruits. This one has dark chocolate, it has raspberry, there's rose in there, and there's also this boozy brandy note. So if you like chocolate and booze together, both of these will satisfy. And depending on which fruit you like, the raspberry or the strawberry, go with that. But this one is quite delicious. They're both very, very delicious fragrances and perfect Valentine's Day fragrance featuring chocolate, or you know, chocolate fragrances all throughout the whole entire year. They're both really delicious, so check those out. And the next one is a fragrance from the house of Dame Perfumery, indie niche house. This is Chocolate Man, and for notes here, all that's listed is dark chocolate, and for me it is all about dark chocolate, but I do get milky nuances because it doesn't taste, or no, I'm not tasting it, it doesn't smell bitter, and sometimes dark chocolate is or acts very bitter to me, but this has milky chocolate qualities, but more on the dark side rather than the all like completely full-on milky chocolate. And when I smell this one, I get like honey and almondy kind of nuances, and then I also get like a little bit powdery touches as well, and a little bit of like a slight fruity undertone. Right, it's right there, it's just trying to come out. And I think for me, since I get a lot of honey with this one for some odd reason, I think the honey is a bit on the fruity side. Anyway, Chocolate Man is a solid release from this house. Check it out if you don't know it. This next one's from the house of Laurence Dumont. This is Vanille Chocolat, this one right here. And this is a very vanillic, chocolatey patchouli. So if you like patchouli and you like those notes together, the vanilla, chocolate, and patchouli, this is definitely one for you to try. It does hint at Angel for Women by Mugler, but it's more darker, it's more chocolatey, it's more patchouli. Like everything is just amped up. Not a lot more is happening. I get a very earthy, chocolatey, and patchouli combo, but it's sweetened up with the vanilla. So I think the chocolate in here is definitely dark chocolate and not what do you call it, like milk chocolate. You do pick up a little bit of honeyed like quality under here as well, and then there's a little bit of tobacco thrown in too. So Vanille Chocolat from the house of Laurence Dumont. These are very inexpensive fragrances if you can find them on Amazon or eBay. Definitely worth your time to look into them, and they are sold in France for about 30 euros for 100 ml, which is really inexpensive. All right, next up, going to the house of GUERLAIN, and this is Gourmand Coquin, this one right here. So this one is probably one of the most beautiful kind of a chocolate, you know, that I was explaining to you that you would buy in a chocolate store in a box of chocolates, and these are like fruity covered, maybe a little bit nutty, and that's kind of what this one smells like. But it is all about dark chocolate. You've got cacao, there's a little bit of booze thrown in this chocolate with rum, there's some spices and vanilla, there's some hints of spices as well, of like black pepper in there, but it does get a little rosy, almost like a rose syrup or rose jam thrown into that mix of like beautiful pralines or chocolate covered fruits and spices together. It's quite delicious. It is Guerlain, and I don't get the best longevity with this one, but as far as the smell goes, it's quite delicious. It's to die for kind of a fragrance. Just wish it was a little more beefy, but I think with the notes they're using, I don't think they could do that. Anyway, that's GUERLAIN, Gourmand Coquin. And then this next one is from the house of DIOR. It's FEVE Delicious. I decided to feature this one in here because it is, after all, more about Tonka beans, and you've got vanilla, and then there's some hints of dark chocolate. And for me, there's also some like lavendery touch in here, but according to the notes, there's caramel, there's some cherry, benzoin, leather. I'm not sure where I'm getting the lavender, but it kind of popped in there. So it's almost like a benzoin, no, I'm sorry, it's almost like a Tonka bean, vanilla, chocolate, and lavender gourmand. Quite delicious, but for me, also the chocolate acts very dusting, like dusting of chocolate. You can smell that it's not syrupy; it's more dry and powdery, dusty, but very, very delicious. This is my favorite Dior Privé or Dior Maison Christian Dior fragrance, and it's FEVE Delicious. Delicious bean is what it translates to. Then that's from Dior. This next one's from a house called Dear Diary, and this is two senses combined in one. And this is an amber after all, and it has a patchouli undertone, but there's lots of chocolate here, there's lots of honey. There's also dried fruity notes that pop through, and of course the patchouli and amber are pretty prominent here. So if you like patchouli, if you like amber, intense fragrances, big experiences with chocolate, honey, and dried fruits, two senses combined in one from Dear Diary should do the trick for you. It is a very long-lasting fragrance, very warm, very spicy, and gooey comes to mind as well. So that is from the house of Dear Diary, two senses combined in one. Moving on with the list, and this is where never judge a book by its cover expression comes to mind. I've always thought this fragrance was a patchouli fragrance because of its name. It's Histoires de Parfums 1969, this one right here. But recently I was in Paris and I went to their boutique in the Marais, and I went through the whole entire fragrance collection there, and I smelled this and I'm like, that's not a patchouli, it's all about chocolate. It's a fruity chocolate. Peach, cardamom, dark chocolate, rose, cloves, patchouli, coffee. But with the name 1969, I always thought this was a patchouli. But they already have a patchouli fragrance called Patchouli Noir. And I thought, okay, 1969 refers to, you know, when the hippies and psychedelic 60s and all that good stuff come to mind, Woodstock, and they were using patchouli then. But it's not that at all. This is a beautiful, beautiful, slightly milky, dark chocolate with peaches. It has the fruity undertones, and it has some spices and aromatic qualities from the cardamom, and there's a little bit of rose that comes through, and that patchouli is present here. Similar patchouli to Patchouli Noir, and then also their fragrance Marquis de Sade. Great, great house, great fragrance, totally love it. Sad that I just discovered it thinking it was a patchouli fragrance, but I'm glad I've discovered it. Better late than ever that I have now enjoying this Histoire de Parfums 1969. So that is a great chocolate fragrance for you to try. And then this one is Comptoir Sud Pacifique, Amour de Cacao. So this one is cacao, vanilla, orange, and then there's some star fruit thrown in. If you don't know this house, Comptoir Sud Pacifique, their fragrances are about $100 for 100 ml, and they focus on a lot of gourmands, lots of gourmands. They have a Vanille Banane that they had launched a couple years ago. They just launched a coffee fragrance, I'm drawing the blank with the name, and then they've had this one for quite some time, and I really like their fragrances because they're simplistic, they're gourmands, they're sweet, they're cozy, they're comfy, plus they're not that expensive because they're the price of designer fragrances that you would get at Macy's and places like that. So definitely a house worth checking into if you like gourmands, because as I said, they do focus a lot on gourmands, and this one is Amour de Cacao, a very, very soft cacao vanilla with fruity undertones as the fruit of orange and star fruit is present in here. Anyway, if you like cacao, check out Amour de Cacao from the house of Comptoir Sud Pacifique. This next one is from the house of by KILIAN. It's Black Phantom, this one right here, and I had to feature this one because it's lots of rum, lots of dark chocolate, lots of caramel, there's coffee, there's sugar, there's almonds. It's a beautiful gourmand, but the black or the dark but the dark chocolate does stand out along with the rum in here, and the combination is quite intoxicating and delicious. And if you like gourmands utilizing so many different gourmand notes and all sweet and cozy notes, then this is definitely a great, great gourmand. I find this one to be more of a potpourri rather than like focusing on one note, so it doesn't really stand out too much as a true chocolate, but then when you put your nose to it and study it, you can pick out the chocolate nuances or the dark chocolate nuances. But if you like a big potpourri of gourmand notes, definitely this one's one for you to try. It's Black Phantom from the house of by KILIAN. Now this next one, I just picked it up just for this video. I bought it and I wanted to have this for the longest time. This is Profumum Roma Sorriso, this one right here. And Profumum Roma fragrances, if you have watched my videos about this house, I have a couple. One shot in their flagship store in Rome, and they stress the fact that you can rub these when you spray them because it is very, very oily. And I like to do that because it is very softening. It softens your hands. But it is a bit oily, so I don't do too much of it, but I don't mind doing it. Here, it doesn't have a top, heart, and base notes, and that's one of the reasons why it's okay to, you know, rub the fragrance in, because when you're rubbing the fragrance in, you're burning off the top notes quicker, and this one doesn't have that note breakdown. But anyway, this one's a very, very delicious chocolate fragrance. You've got lots of vanilla, dark chocolate, there's bitter orange, there's some woodsy notes, but according to my testing, which I've tested this quite a bit for a while, since when I got it, just for this video, as I said, it does dry down to a very powdery, almondy-like chocolate and vanilla. I'm assuming there's other notes in here to create these accords that they're telling or mentioning that the notes are, but for me, I get lots of almonds along with the chocolate. In fact, the dark chocolate for me is not as long-lived as all the other notes, because you spray it, it is lots of dark chocolate, but it dries down to less chocolate and more vanillic, kind of almondy, kind of, I think it smells like heliotrope to me. But still, a very, very delicious chocolate fragrance. I really love it. This is Perfume Aroma Soriso. This next one is from the house of Masaki Matsushima, and this is Chocolate Matte, this one right here. A very odd bottle, but last checking of this one online, it's at FragranceNet, I believe, for about $40 for a 50 ml bottle, but this is to die for delicious. It's lots of dark chocolate. There is cacao thrown in, so you've got two chocolates. There's a coconutty quality to the fragrance, lots of musk, sandalwood, and then you do have to throw in the fruits because it is a fruity chocolate. There's some watermelon note, which kind of sounds weird, but to me it's really, really delicious. Very, very cozy. It does hint a little bit at Nutella for me for some reason, without the nuttiness of the hazelnut and Nutella. Just the way it wears on me kind of hints at Nutella for some odd reason. But really, really delicious fragrance. If you don't know this one, check it out. Go buy a bottle. I have a link to FragranceNet in the info box. You can go check it out. But as I said, it's for 50 ml for about $40. It's great if you like chocolate. Anyway, that's Masaki Matsushima, and it's Chocolate Matte. Few more left on this list, and then we can go and enjoy and eat some real chocolate. But Ruby from the house of AMOUR is a really, really delicious chocolate fragrance. This one, if you put your nose to it, it just smells like when you open that box of chocolates from C's Candies or wherever chocolate store. It literally smells like that. And it really does. This house, Bruno Acampora, or it's just called Acampora now, has some great offerings, and I think this one is one of the best offerings from this house to me, along with a few others that I've spoken about on the channel. And it's all about dark chocolate. There's some red berry note in here, slight fruity nuances. There's rose, there's musk, there's pink pepper, but it's mostly about dark chocolate. You really, really ought to check this one out. As I said, as soon as you put your nose to it, and as soon as you open that box of chocolates, that's what it smells like. It's delicious. Anyway, Ruby from the house of AMOUR. Awesome stuff. Now this next one is a wild card in this list. Not necessarily one that I would put as a real chocolate fragrance or a cacao, but this is from the house of Paris Monte Carlo, and it's Cacao Aztec. For me, this one is a chocolate fragrance before it becomes chocolate, the cacao. So there's a cardamom here, there's pink pepper, there's tuberose, there's cacao, there's black pepper. It is a floral take. There's also a pittosporum note in here, which I really love this flower. And so if you like a chocolate fragrance that's not gourmand, or cacao fragrance that's not gourmand, and literally it's not a gourmand fragrance, it is a cacao before it becomes chocolate, and that's what it smells like. So this is Cacao Aztec from the house of Paris Monte Carlo. Now this next one is from a fragrance house that I recently spoke about in my What Does Ambrette Smell Like video, and I mentioned in there over the weekend I'm going to have another one of their fragrances featured. And here we have from the house of Atelier Materi, Cacao Porcelana. So Cacao Porcelana I'm going to spray on because it's quite delicious. With this one, you have lots of cacao, there's tonka beans, there's a boozy rum note, and I can smell it right now, the rum. There's some tobacco, a white tobacco note, patchouli. Just like the other one, the Peau d'Ambrette, this one's quite sexy as well. So you've got this beautiful cacao, which is not really quite chocolate yet, but you can pick up the chocolatey nuances, and it's a lot more chocolatey than the one in here. But the tonka beans come in, the rum definitely comes in, the booziness is quite delicious. The white tobacco to me, it smells a little tobacco-ish, but it's not like full-on ashy tobacco. And then that patchouli adds some quite a sexiness to the fragrance, but it's delicious. These two fragrances, this one and the Pot Ambrette, are two of my favorites from this house. I sampled all their fragrances. They have 5, I believe, and if you like gourmands, definitely check it out. But it's not a full-on gourmand yet. As I was saying, that cacao is definitely not full-on chocolate. So this is Cacao Porcelana. Oh, it does act a little porcelainish and very shiny as well. And this is from the house of Atelier Materi. Check this one out. It's really, really delicious. Next, we're going to the house of Strange Love, New York City, and this is Melt My Heart, this one right here. So this one is a very unique gourmand because it also utilizes oud, but it has a big dark chocolate note and orris butter. So it's a buttery, chocolatey oud. There are some spicy nuances thrown in there and a little undertone of citruses, but for me it's mostly about the oud, the orris butter, and of course that dark chocolate. Quite delicious, very luxurious, very buttery, very silky smooth. Absolutely one of a kind. The oud stands out but not overwhelms because you don't want that oud to overwhelm, but it is there. And that orris butter, it's luxurious. Anyway, this is Strange Love New York City, and it's Melt My Heart. Try it, it's really, really delicious. And I'm going to end this list with this beautiful fragrance. It's not a true gourmand, but this is from the house of AMOUR, and it's Lilac Love. Why Lilac Love? Because you got so much cacao here. Once again, it's the cacao dusting on lilacs, and kind of like this one, the cacao dusting is here in the FEVE Delicieuses. Here also you're smelling lilacs, but it's dusted with and sprinkled with lots of beautiful cacao that makes it very, very delicious and intoxicating. Now you've got to love lilac as a note to appreciate this fragrance. But if you like that kind of a note and you also like cacao or chocolate, definitely one for you to try. But this one's all about cacao, heliotrope, vanilla, lilac, tonka beans, gardenia, orris butter. So as you can read, hear the notes, it does lean very, very gourmandy with a very, very amplified lilac note. Anyway, I'm going to end the list with this one because it's delicious. But every one of these fragrances are really, really delicious, guys, focusing on chocolate and cacao. And let me know if you are a fan of this note and fragrances. Do you enjoy these kind of fragrances? And what time of the year do you like to wear them? Do you wear them around Valentine's Day, or do you just wear them any time of the year? Again, some of these are a little on the big gourmandy side, so wear them in the summertime, wear them a little cautiously because they could be heavy. But for me, I love these fragrances all year round. Last but not least, guys, let me know if I've missed any chocolate fragrances. As I mentioned, I left off Montal's chocolate greedy because I have an issue with that one. I just don't get the fragrance. I'm slowly warming up to it, but perhaps maybe next year or the year after we'll do another list of chocolate fragrances and feature it, but I haven't featured it at this time. But I also decided to leave off white chocolate, and of course I was going to feature Chanel Coromandel. I left that one off because it doesn't really act like chocolate to me, and these are definitely more chocolatey than white chocolate. There was also a couple of others that I decided to leave off because they were white chocolate. Anyway, guys, let me know some fragrances that featured chocolate that were not featured on this video. If you have any questions or comments, do please list below. Otherwise, please like this video, please share it, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.